Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. I always feel a little bit nervous using words like strategy and tactics when talking about estrangement because I fear it may be off-putting. Those sound like fighting words, like right off the battlefield, and that implies war, which implies an enemy. And if you're at all familiar with this show or with me, you know I don't hold or endorse an us versus them view of estrangement. But refusing to talk about strategy because of those associations is throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's just too much of a loss. Because strategy is necessary for achieving any objective, especially ones that are difficult or complicated. Strategy provides a well-thought-out plan to get somewhere you want to be. Without a conscious strategy toward reconnecting, many parents employ unconscious strategies. Here are a few examples of unconscious strategies parents might use. Persuade the adult child to remember the good times they shared. Involve other people. Withhold attention, affection, or material items. Or send regular reminders that they're ready to resume a relationship. Those are all strategies, but they're often unconscious. And unconscious strategies use tactics that typically arise from feelings and impulses rather than careful consideration. I think it's fair to say that feelings and impulses are functionally the opposite of strategy and tactics. There are many times when we need to replace emotional reactions with strategic thinking, not just in the chaos of war, but in a peaceful, well-lived life. In other words, there doesn't have to be an enemy for us to need a strategy. A strategy is a plan designed to reach a specific objective. That's all it is. And the single objective this podcast is all about is reconnecting you with your estranged adult, child, or children. In my opinion, and based on the available research, an excellent strategy to reach that goal is to effectively address the cause of the disconnect. Because once that cause is addressed, the biggest barrier to reconciliation is dissolved. So our strategy is your plan of action to dissolve the barrier to reconnection, and that strategy has 3 parts. Number 1, figure out what caused your child or children to disconnect. 2, identify any aspects of the problem over which you have some control. And 3, make any necessary changes to address those aspects. Each of the 3 parts of the strategy will utilize tactics. Tactics are the how of the strategy. Again, the objective is reconnection, the strategy is the plan to achieve it, and tactics are how to go about it. For example, how do you accomplish that first part of the strategy, which is to figure out what caused the rift? For many parents, the only way they can think of is to ask the estranged adult child. And if they don't get an answer, or if they get an answer they don't understand or don't agree with, they believe there's nothing further they can do. In effect, they abandon the strategy because of the failure of a single tactic. Now, imagine you just found a winning lottery ticket that you bought a year ago, and you have only a few hours left to claim your winnings. You need to get there before midnight, but you discover your car won't start. What do? What if you also don't have access to a phone? What would you do then? The more important the objective, the more work you will likely put into achieving it. In this case, your mind would riffle through a list of options, including ones you don't normally consider, neighbors you haven't met, bicycles, buses, whatever. You wouldn't stop at, oh well, my car won't start, so I guess I just won't collect that lottery jackpot. The failure of a single tactic, whether it's using your car or asking your child for information, should not change your strategy, let alone your objective. I think the reason parents abandon strategy sometimes goes back to those feelings and impulses I mentioned. With a problem as painful as estrangement, The longer it goes on, the more vulnerable you are to emotions like confusion and despair. One moment you can be going along, meticulously applying a well-thought-out, rational strategy for reconnection, and the next moment you're filled with doubt and fear and uncertainty. I don't know of any fix for that, or whether there even needs to be a fix. Those emotions are there for a reason. There's no need to deny them your attention or your care. The bridge between emotions and strategy is mindfulness. When, not if, your feelings and impulses threaten to take the lead in your behavior, try to notice that, catch it when it's happening, and gently ask whether right now is a time for emotion or a time for strategy. Both have their place, and while emotions may inform any strategy, the time to allow their influence is when you're creating the strategy to begin with. Once your plan is in place, emotions are best kept separate. The big picture is this: have a strategy, and also allow yourself to experience your feelings in the breaks between employing your chosen tactics. If you find it difficult to separate feelings and impulses from strategy and tactics, please read my book, Constructive Wallowing: How to Beat Bad Feelings by Letting Yourself Have Them. The paradox of constructive wallowing is that the more you let your feelings run free inside of you, the more in control you actually are on the outside. I explain why that is in the book. Let's just go over that strategy again, the basic strategy for reconnection. First, figure out what caused the disconnect, and that could take quite a while, admittedly. Try not to rush it, though, because getting it right is better than getting it quickly, and it could take some time to get it right. Second, identify any aspects of the problem over which you have some control. And third, make any necessary changes to address those aspects. And that part will almost certainly take time. Unfortunately, no one can speed up the time it takes to repair relationships. The process can be slowed down, though. It's like when you're filling a pot from a faucet. The quickest way to fill that pot is to turn the water on full blast and don't move the pot away from the faucet. But even if you follow that advice, it still takes time for the pot to fill. Having a good strategy with well-considered tactics is like turning the water on full force. Following your strategy is like not moving the pot. When it comes to reconnecting, it always takes longer than you'd like, but sticking to a sensible strategy is the quickest way to your objective. For much more on strategy and an overall approach to repairing that precious relationship, see my book, Reconnecting with Your Estranged Adult Child. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being, so please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.